Meeting to order, please rise and join us for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right. We will start out with our good news report. Deanne.
Good evening. I have friends joining me tonight, which is great to have partners. In the fall, after hearing from a growing number of students, particularly at the high school level, that they didn't necessarily feel safe using the bathrooms due to the amount of vaping that was going on at that time, Dr. Stavum then convened a group of school and city leaders trying to tackle that problem. The Senior Coordinator of Nursing Services for the school district, Molly Satter, took the lead, and she brought a group of us together. And this evening, we're here to unveil a new campaign called Break the Clouds. So we'll take you through that. Molly.
Good evening, board members. We continue to hear from our school nurses and other healthcare providers in our community about the increasing number of students vaping and the associated health concerns. These are things like coughing, shortness of breath, nausea, headaches, and also permanent lung damage. But we also hear about the mental health impacts, which include mood, learning, attention, and impulse control. So these things are concerning for any of our students, but it's especially alarming when we hear about students in elementary school vaping. So this really made us passionate about what we were doing and what we were embarking upon with working with the city of Sioux Falls. So when we started these conversations, we had Shelby Coimus, who was kind of the lead person from the city health department. She's their public health prevention coordinator. And ourselves, we got together and met throughout the year several times, talking about how we could work together to communicate with families and students about this concern. And so I'm going to introduce Shelby and have her come up here and talk about some of the things that we put together, including our website and videos.
Thank you, Molly. As Molly introduced, I'm Shelby Comus, the Public Health Prevention Coordinator for the Health Department, and I'm very honored to be here representing the Health Department. I'm very honored to be working with these lovely ladies behind me on this awesome project. As we know, a majority of the adult tobacco use starts before the age of 18, as much as 90%. And so this is a big public health concern, and so we are happy and enjoyed to be involved and be invited into this process. And I'm excited to show you a little bit of what we came up with. We wanted it to be easily accessible for the youth. There's a lot of great information already out there. We didn't want to recreate the wheel, and so we really took inspiration from what's already available, not only at the state level, but also the national level. But we wanted to put a little bit of a local spin on it, make sure they knew they had the support here in Sioux Falls. Not only with the school district themselves and the amazing people they're surrounded by every day, but of course the other organizations that are available to them out in the community. And so we made this accessible in a variety of different ways. One of the ways is through our landing page that is featured on the city's website. You'll see a little bit in front of you. We wanted to keep it simple. Again, we're not recreating the wheel. We really just wanted to pinpoint that information that was already out there and make sure they could find it with the simple questions that they might have. We also created posters that you might see right here in front of you that'll be available throughout the school district, and Patty will talk a little bit more about that. We took inspiration from the state that has an adult quick card and created a youth version of that. We wanted something small and easily so they could put it in their back pocket, they could take it with them, put it in their backpack. Not a big brochure, but something they could really take and have all the information they need to quit right behind if they choose to do so. And then also drew some inspiration from students and administrators within the school district to have videos so they could see that throughout the school district. We wanted them to put faces in their community to the problem, not only talking about their own experiences, but also from an administrative point of view and what the challenges are as an administration. So we're really excited to have all of these different resources available to the youth, and just know that we're here to support them. We're not just here to punish people for doing so, but we really want to surround them with the available resources they have if they choose to quit or if they choose not to take up vaping in the first place.
All right.
So the next steps are to get it out to our community. The way we will do that here in the Sioux Falls school system is, like you can see with the posters here, that we'll get those out to each one of the schools. And then I think in front of you, you happen to have one of the cards that can be given out. Between Molly giving them out to the nurses and myself giving them out to the high school, middle school, and elementary counselors and success coordinators and social workers, we're hoping that they're casually around, so students could pick them up if they would like to, but then also within the offices for the counselors and social workers, so that when they're talking to a student, I should add in the nurses too, that when they're talking to a student, they can also hand that to a student, possibly a parent too. The wonderful thing about doing this with the city is that we know it won't just end here with the Sioux Falls School District, is that then it will also be part of being a city campaign too, and getting the information out to families and our community members to let them know that we know this is a problem. We hope you know that it's a problem, and what can you do to help us get the word out to our students that we want to help them. As an example, a few years back, we had a middle school admin that had called IPC and said, I have a couple middle school age students who are in trouble, and they don't want to be in trouble, but they're addicted. They don't know how to stop vaping. And so this is just exactly where we want to be, is getting it out to our community this way.
And again, tons of great resources on there of other community partners that are also working on anti-vaping campaigns. We did, as Shelby mentioned, go out and talk to a couple of administrators, also a student who has led sort of the anti-vaping campaign, and put together some videos. Our goal is to continue to collect those stories and possibly be able to string them together for an actual half-hour program or so that we can air on K-Learn TV. Additionally, we'll be looking at the resources, and the website can be translated just by a button on the website, but the hard card materials and things like that, we're looking at getting those translated into other languages as well. So definitely a work in progress, and we don't intend to stop at this point. It's just a good time for us to share with you some of the materials that we have. So I'll just share with you one of the videos that I pulled up. And this is student Nick Moss from Roosevelt High School, who stood up at the beginning of the year and said, hey, we need to do something here. And so he's a leader in his school community and a leader in this effort as well.
The fear I have is like when it's clean like that, it doesn't seem, there's no ashes to it or anything like that, that it seems like, oh, well, that's easier to do and it's not that bad for me. It's the new cigarettes, right? Smoking in the boys' room, the old songs and stuff like that. Anytime you know you shouldn't be bringing something into a school and you do anyway, you have a problem. One of the things that really bothers them is that it's hard to use the bathroom because kids are in there vaping. And that's embarrassing to me as a principal. You just want to see people develop into the person they can be and not have the habits that'll hold them back. A little positive peer pressure to say, like, because people who do those kind of things think everyone does, and not everyone is.
Obviously, that was not Nick. My apologies. I pulled that up earlier and I thought we were seeing Nick.
By far the best part of being the
Okay, so we'll be putting those things out on social media and sharing them with the city. CityLink is going to be helping with the effort as well. So we're just grateful to be able to launch this and get this in the front of eyes of the community, particularly the eyes of our students, but also creating awareness among our parents and greater community members that this is an issue that we're seeing, and even at elementary levels. So again, we're grateful for the partnership. It's been a great collaborative effort, and everyone has really stepped up to have their hand in this. Thanks to Tori Stolen for doing our videos and kind of creating that intense kind of attention-grabbing video, which is what we need.
Anybody have any comments?
Thank you for this. My daughter's 10 and she has stories of seeing vaping in her school. So you couldn't highlight the seriousness of this and the gravity of its urgency right now enough. Working at Joe Foss Axtell Park building, I saw the implications of what vaping did to a lot of anxiety, stress, and all that just heightened to no end. So this is very near and dear to me, seeing what it's done to our young people and the health issues that it's causing. So Patty knows how to get a hold of me. Whatever I can do to be helpful with this campaign, I would like to personally be involved if I can. So thank you.
My question is, how do we know what's in the pen? I would assume you could have SE, soil, or...
Speak into the mic. I'm not sure we heard you.
My question is, how do we know what's in the pen? Is there some way to differentiate between cigarette type or illegal drug?
You're talking about the mechanism by which they're using?
Yeah, what's in it?
So that's where we would work with our SRO in the building, and they would further investigate that along with the principal to find out what it is that's
Because it doesn't smell, right?
correct. Yeah. You can, yeah, no smoke, no smell sometimes, so.
I would just chime in. This is a problem across the United States, and that's exactly part of the biggest issue is that you can't tell. And so what looks like it might be a quote, more harmless version, it is very harmful. And our students don't always know what's in those things that they get secondhand because hopefully they're not the ones who are able to buy them, but they're getting them from other people who may not be as concerned about their well-being as we would want them to be. I would also say this is directly connected to attendance and the issues that we see with attendance. Schools are seeing that students just aren't able to stay in the building because they have the addiction and they have to go out and vape, and that hurts your odds of coming back in. It's easier maybe to stay out at times. And I would also put a challenge out there to our community that these are being sold. Sometimes they're being stolen, and the accessibility online is like it's never been before. And so this is something that's really difficult to get a hold of, and it takes everybody to do that. Parents who aren't sure what to do if they are aware, parents checking in if they are not aware, and all of us working together, because the ultimate goal is what we talked about at the very beginning of this campaign, is it doesn't do any good to put information out there if we don't have a very short distance to getting help to quit. That's the goal, and we want that to be front and center, that we want you to quit. So I really appreciate the work that's gone into this, and this is a nationwide issue that everybody everywhere has to pay attention to if we want to see healthy young adults and healthy older adults as well. So thank you.
I was just going to add, I love that there's a QR code on here because I think that that's so easy for kids to just even discreetly take a picture and then look at it without feeling like somebody's watching them look at this. And so I think that was a really great thing. My other question would be two things. Will there be a link to this on our district page? Okay. And then are we doing anything with like clinics or pediatric offices or acute cares to either get them the posters or some of these to hand out? Because if a kid comes in and has, a cough and maybe the parents don't know, but the provider can tell that, is there any sort of a partnership that exists there?
Yeah, so this is phase one of this. So as of right now, the basic answer is not yet.
Okay.
However, as we talked about a little bit, I think this is just the very ground level of what we could do with this. At least at the health department, we do have the direct access to Falls Community Health. So those will be available right away to them there. But I think that does open the door to what other partnerships we can do through local clinics as well as the other school districts here in town. And we do have the partnerships in place through additional collaboratives that we can make those connections. So not yet, but yes, absolutely.
Good, thank you. All right, well, thank you all for your work and your continued work, because like you said, this is just the beginning. And so hopefully we can help some people, and that snowballs into other people sharing their story and getting the help that they need as well. So thank you all very much. All right, can I get a motion and a second to approve the minutes of the meeting held on March 25th, 2024, please? So moved.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Those are approved. We have nobody wishing to address the board this evening. Can I get a motion and a second for approval of the agenda?
So moved.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed, same sign. The agenda is approved. We have no conflicts of interest. The consent agenda, if we could get a motion and a second for approval of 9A through E, please.
So moved.
I have a motion and a second. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. That is approved. And the supplemental consent agenda 10A, a motion and a second, please.
So moved.
A motion and a second. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. That is approved with one abstention by myself. And then we have one report of a public hearing for the budget. Mr. Beek.
Well, Mr. Beek, it's in place. I just want to remind our public, this is a tentative adoption, and this has been a practice of the board, I think, for a fairly significant amount of time, which indicates not final approval, but tentative approval, because, as you know, there are many decisions that are dependent upon this budget as we're in hiring season, programmatic planning, and some of the things that even happen during the summer right away into the beginning of the school year. And so I just want to clarify that that's part of our regular practice and doesn't imply final approval, but gives a fairly good indication.
Thank you. So the school board began its budget process in November last year, at which time the board adopted guidelines and a timeline for the budget process. Between December through February, 19 subcommittees comprised of admin, professional and classified staff, and community people developed program budgets. They were presented to the Budget Review Committee in mid-March. Budget Review Committee included 2 board members, president and vice president. The committee met and then developed recommendations to bring to the full board, and those work sessions were held on those on March 27th and April 3rd. The budget presented to the board is heavily influenced by COVID dollars that will run out at the end of FY24. About $10 million in ongoing expenditures were added to the general fund budget between FY20 and FY25. Those expenses currently being borne by the federal funds are being folded into the unrestricted general fund. So what you're going to see here is we're going to go through some of the exhibits. We're going to, and the tax-supported budget, which is the general fund, special ed, capital outlay, and bond redemption funds, which are on the screen right now, is budgeted at $337.8 million for FY25. For the district's homeowners, the school levy is projected to decrease by 7 cents in 2005. And the average school property tax increase for a typical house in the Sioux Falls School District is expected to be 0.7% next year, an increase in approximately 2.6% per year over the last 25 years. So that's kind of a quick rundown of the budget. Then I'll go through some of these exhibits. And if you have questions on any of them, please just stop me. We've kind of gone over this before, but so some people haven't heard it yet, the public, so we'll go through it. So this is, like I said before, the tax-supported funds of the district. Those are the general fund, which is consisted of 2, the unrestricted general fund and the restricted general fund. The restricted is basically federal grants. If we don't get that money, if we cut the program, then we don't get the money, and so there's no savings to be had there. And then pretty much everything else is the unrestricted general fund. And the special education fund is next, and that's kind of the general fund for kids on IEPs. That's what the special education fund is for. Capital outlay fund is next, which is money used for equipment, building repairs, debt service on capital outlay certificates, which build new buildings and do renovations. So it's kind of those three main things. And technology is kind of your big equipment purchase in there, as well as the maintenance and repair on the buildings. And finally, the bond redemption. That fund is only accessed if you have passed a bond with 60% or more of the vote, which we did in 2018. So we're doing a levy on that too. So the 4 of those funds add up to about $347 million. Next in the packet is what we call the self-supported funds. They pay for their expenses through revenues either generated on users, like the insurance trust fund, or the food service fund, and or billing back to other funds in the district. Like the insurance trust fund also bills employees, but it also bills the district. The funds that pay those employees' salaries also pay for those benefits. So you can see what those are there. We don't want to spend a lot of time on that, but it's part of our budget. So the total expenditures and depreciation in all these funds is about $123 million. And these are the self-supported funds. Didn't talk a ton yet about the general fund, so I'm going to do that here under this plan. So you've seen this several times. I'll just briefly touch on this. What we try to do is have a fund balance around 6% or around 8%. Last year, because of COVID money, we came in pretty good at 10.8%. As we try to integrate these funds into some of these expenditures into our non-federal expenditures, over time it's going to drop. It gets down to a low of 5.3% projected in 28, which is a little lower than we want it to be. But the next year we show it climbing back out up to 6%, which is a good sign. And then we want it into the future, try to get that up to around 8%. That number came from the community, business members in the community. We call it the FAN, Finance Action Network, that meets occasionally and goes through our budget expenditures. And they recommended we try to be around an 8%, 8% unobligated balance. So that's what our plan looks like for the next 5 years. I'll move on. We went through all the variables in there last time when we met. Next, just quick, special ed fund. The revenues are going up about $7 million. And that is the state, every 2 years, they recalculate the average cost of the most needy expenditure or special ed categories. So they did that this year. And they also then fund on the students that you have in your district. And we have, over the last few years, have kind of had an influx. So that's kind of why that revenue is going up. And that's why some of the expenses are going up. And we really saw it in early childhood and elementary. You can see those increases there, quite significant. And it's just a matter of the number of students growing. So that's what's going on in that budget. They're budgeted to spend close to $1 million into the fund balance. They got a decent fund balance, and they usually come in low on expenditures. So we think that's a comfortable margin for them. Next, the capital outlay fund. Showing $38 million of revenue next year. That's about 1.2 more than last year. Last year we held it even for a year. And our expenses are not at that number. They're 28, but we have several reserves that we've gone through in the past. That the 5-year capital outlay plan sets aside the reserves because some of those projects are major and you do them every 4 or 5 years, and you don't want to have to try to find $5 million in 1 year. So you set aside $1 million a year for 5 years, and then you fund it. So the big expenditures here are in the renovation and maintenance, in technology, and then in debt service on capital outlay projects, certificates that we've sold in the past. prior to 2018. Since then, we really haven't done any because of the bond funded. Well, we up through the new elementary school, and those projects will be fully expensed. Next is the bond redemption fund. Talked about that. It's just paying down the debt levy. We're spending about $12.2 million a year now on that, and that was passed in 2018. And that is, oh no, I wanted to show one more exhibit. These capital projects funds are just offshoots of the capital outlay and bond redemption fund. Here's the property taxes. I talked about that in my opening speech there a little bit, but this is a house. It exists. We've been watching it since 2000, and its taxes, just real quick, have increased about 2.6% per year since 2000. Valuations went up for everybody in Lincoln and Minnehaha counties the last couple of prior years, and so those valuation increases were quite big. This year it's a 0.7% increase, so not bad. Over 25 years, it's been 83%. Seems like a big number, but over 25 years, that only averages out to 2.6. So that's, then we also compare ourselves to our neighboring school districts, see where we're at there. You know, there's plenty of nice houses in the area here to live in, and we want to be competitive there as well. So out of 11 districts, we rank 9th. We're 3rd to the lowest, and we're almost tied. We're within a penny of number 2. So we're glad about that. So I guess in summary, we have this recommended funding package. It's on our 3 priorities that we always talk about. I've kind of pushed on some of them. I haven't mentioned this yet. Competitive salaries for staff are in there. They're fully funded. We have a average increase of 5.2% for our teachers. We have a average increase of 4.25% for our classified staff in here. And those would be your custodians, your clerical, your food service workers, you know, things like that. So that's one priority. Another one is we always try to be mindful of the taxpayer, and we have that 7-cent reduction and a minimal increase next year in the levy on that home that we watch. And then the third thing is to try to maximize our opportunities for our students and their families. 3, in a budget that is pretty limited, trying to manage increases. We funded esports for all 4 high schools next year. We funded an expansion of services at Horace Mann for those kids with challenging behaviors. And then we increased resources because of our growing EL, English language learners population. So I would just ask you to acknowledge the public hearing and tentatively approve the FY school district budget to allow human resources to offer employee contracts with the understanding that the budget will be brought forward for final adoption and certification of levies at the annual meeting held July 8th, 2024. If no, I'll stand by for questions.
All right, so at this time, we'll open a public hearing. If there's anybody that's here that wants to speak on that, you do not have to have signed up prior to the meeting. So you can just come and step up to the mic if you have anything to say. No? Okay, then we will close the public hearing. And does anybody have any questions or comments for?
You know, this is just such a robust process to get us to where we're at now. So people don't get to see the work that gets done behind the scenes, and it's fairly comprehensive with several committees, the principals and the individual buildings that are working on it. Then it goes to a committee, and we've got the FAN group that works on it. And at the end of the day, the district has a very challenging strategic plan with robust outcomes. And in order to operationalize and see those great outcomes happen, it takes a budget. And the strategy behind the budget isn't just happenstance. It's very intentional. It takes a lot of people. And Todd does this year in, and it's just it's great work, and we're lucky that we have such great stewards of our resources. And it's going to be challenging as those COVID dollars go away, and that's just the nature of the beast. So be it. There will be an impact, just the way it's going to be this next year. So
Yeah, we have over 100 people preparing these budgets and working hard to meet these priorities I mentioned at the end, where we're offering competitive salaries for staff, we're mindful of the taxpayer, and we're always trying to offer the best opportunities for our constituents, who are our students and their families.
Yeah, I was just going to add, I know that when we had our good news report last time when we talked about the MOU with teachers, that I think there was some misunderstanding of people thinking we were excited about giving them a 0.75 increase. And that's, yes, that we did do that, but that was on top of what they were going to be given as well. So today, when you talked about 5.2% for teachers, that's the average, and we know that. But there were certain groups of teachers who were targeted, and those were the longer term teachers. Those were our first year teachers. And so I just think it's important that we say we want to be competitive, and being competitive isn't giving 0.75%. It's doing that additional on top of what we were already going to be giving them. So I just wanted to clarify that so that people understand. The other thing I just wanted to say is this is the third public meeting that we have had regarding our budget. And as we look at bringing new board members in with the election tomorrow, I just want to encourage people that this is an open process, and we have publicly met 3 different times, and 3 different times we have asked for public input, and not a single person has said anything. So if there's anybody that has an issue with the budget or has a question, I feel like we've given ample opportunities for people to come and ask those questions. Not that they still can't, because this is a tentative adoption. But I think that if there are people out there who are confused or are not liking the things that we're doing, this is an open place and the door is open, and we would like to hear from you, but we don't know that if the feedback isn't given. So I don't mean to stand on my soapbox, but I think I get frustrated hearing from people who disagree with what we're doing, but have never once given us feedback or ideas on things that we could be doing different. So anybody else?
I was going to kind of piggyback on Nan. That's okay.
No, it's easier.
While I completely agree with everything that you have said, Carly, because we do try to provide as many opportunities for the public to respond to this process and to what our numbers look like and everything else. But I just wanted to say a little bit more with what Nan was talking about, and just, we knew that these COVID dollars were not going to be with us long term, and we've been planning for this for several years. So I just appreciate the process that we've gone through to make sure that I appreciated something that was written in the summary, that it was, for first time ever, we were sufficiently funded with those dollars. Well, they weren't permanent, unfortunately. So we have to make do with what we have, and I think we've been very diligent about those resources and how we used them when we had them, and the process to kind of step back from that loss, basically, in our revenue. So again, just appreciate the process, appreciate all of Todd's hard work and his team and everybody else that's involved in the committee work too. So thank you.
All right. Since the public hearing is completed, we will go ahead and I'll take a motion and a second for tentative adoption of the FY25 budget, please.
so moved.
Second.
I have a motion and 2 seconds for approval of the tentative
Todd
budget.
figure that out.
All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. That is tentatively approved. Can I get a motion and a second to move into executive session SDCL 1-25-2?
So moved.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. We are in executive session.